Today I'm going to be talking about something called a Bias Incident Prevention and Response Team. These are groups of people, generally a collection of faculty in the student body in universities, who have come together to create what I would describe as a middleman to deal with obscene situations. The reason I'm talking about it is because when I graduated university, I started to see these councils or boards being set up and abusing power which had been granted to them by themselves. The issue is they have no power, and you will see this as we read through an example of one. And don't think these are isolated incidents. These truth councils are all over the place, in the US, in Canada, and in the UK, and maybe other places, but I haven't found any. There are over 100 campuses which have these specific teams, so let's get into what they do. I'll be using an article on Reason.com named "Saying on the Other Hand Got a Student Reported to the Campus Bias Police." Since I cannot verify what's said in the article is true because you have to log into the college's website to access the logs, take it with a pinch of salt, but also know that I have had personal experiences which are very similar to the ones described in the article. The article is written by Robbie Sove, and I would urge you to read it. There will be links to everything I discuss in the accompanying blog post. Quote, "At Colby College, a student informed the campus's Bias Incident Prevention and Response Team that someone had carved a swastika into a pumpkin. According to the college's Bias Incident logs, the student was mistaken. The carving wasn't actually a swastika. This was not the most absurd bias incident in Colby College's archives. Earlier this year, someone filed a report with the BIPR team after overhearing an offensive figure of speech. The offending phrase, on the other hand, the BIPR team's files note that these words were flagged for targeting people on the basis of ability. I must therefore presume that the person offended by the phrase "on the other hand" possessed only one hand, or thought that a one-handed person might feel triggered by such proclamation of dual-handedness." Unquote. So to start off with, we have a complaint targeted towards the team involving a swastika and a pumpkin. What type of swastika is not described, but I think it would be safe to say it is regarding the Nazi symbol, not any others such as the Buddhist one. It would be funny if it was though. There are not many people in the world scared of Buddhists, especially scared of one of their symbols meaning all is well. Something everyone should look up is how many different forms of swastika there are, and all their meanings, because it's easy to tell if someone is lying about one or not if you ask, well, which one? And they seem dumbfounded. There have been many cases, and maybe including this one, where the swastika has been a hoax, and even drawn the wrong way round to resemble the Buddhist swastika. Generally people have done it in the past with feces or spray paint, and it nearly always turns out to be the person who reported it or one of their close acquaintances. It is always done under the guise of starting a conversation about issues people have, when the only one with the issue is the person who decided smearing human waste over a wall was a good way to talk to someone. The fact that this was reported only screams that the person reporting it was screaming for attention. I want you to think what you would do if you found a pumpkin which actually had a swastika on it. For me personally, I would wonder for a few seconds why, and then either carve it into a different shape or just chuck it in a bin. I wouldn't go to the police and tell them that there is a Nazi running about, because to be quite frank, that is creating an issue where there is none, and would only highlight paranoia on your part. It may also create a boy who cried wolf scenario with the authorities. This isn't even taking into account the student was mistaken. I've been racking my brain wondering what it could have actually been instead of a swastika, and my best bet is someone at the college had been drinking and tried to do a classic window to see the candle, and stopped halfway through because they were completely lawnmowed and went to go throw up out of an actual window. I suppose the message is, if you are looking for something intensively, you will find it no matter what, and this person found a hate crime in a pumpkin. Or They were incredibly dumb, and it casts a bad light on the college, which is supposed to be an institute of learning. On the other hand, the second part of this paragraph is very worrying. Imagine you were not allowed to say certain phrases, otherwise you would be persecuted. Imagine if the word bookcase was outlawed because it had been traumatic to a person at the back of the room who you were not speaking to, and did not even know was there. Traumatic to a person you had never met, and would therefore have no idea that the word bookcase would set them off into a deep frenzy. It is a slippery slope if even one phrase is labelled as such. The example they give here is on the other hand, which may have been said in the vicinity of a one-handed person and they took offence. This is the best case scenario since we don't know the full scenario, but let's roll with it. Because of this event, the phrase has now in their minds become what they would deem as hate speech, which is defined as that offends, threatens or insults groups based on race, colour, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, disability, or other traits. The definition has definitely become broader over the years, and we'll get into that in a bit. Since it is deemed as hate speech, it should not be said, and also, you can serve some serious consequences because of it. The consequence in this situation could be the expulsion from a college, which you are trying to use to set up the rest of your life. Now I'm going to take this idea to its logical conclusion, which is, nobody will ever talk to each other. The reason for this is because if you are able to label a sentence like this hate speech, anything can be labelled as so to the right person. Let's use an example. I will take a completely normal sentence and show you. To a co-worker, would you like to go for a walk by the beach? So let's break this down word for word. Now remember, I'm using their logic here, not my own. Would. Would could be misconstrued as wood, and my boss, who is over my shoulder, has a wooden foot, and therefore would take offence at the word. You. Talking to a singular person, but the person in the room next door takes offence because you are singling one person out instead of addressing her. The person feels stressed because you did not address her even though you are not talking to her. Like. Somebody may have said to Margaret in the corner that they liked her when she was 16, but they ran off with her sister, and now she's having to relive bad memories, offending her. 2. Michael had a twin, making 2 of them, but unfortunately his twin died, making him a 1, and now he is traumatized and offended because the word was used. Go. Jimmy's father used to go to work, and one day he did not come home since he was run over by a bus, so every time Jimmy hears the word go, he breaks down, he is offended. 4. Sandra was on a golf course, and heard the call of 4, only to turn around and get smacked in the head with a golf ball. She is offended by the use of the word 4. A. Frederica had a husband who was named Alex, who hit her until he was put in prison. And if you use the word a, it reminds her of the abuse. Walk. John is a paraplegic. He's triggered. By. Sarah was a bystander at a robbery, and any sort of mention of the event sent her into a fit of tears. The. Seems like a good word, can't really think of anything, it's alright. Beach. Mark had an unfortunate surfing accident and cannot even hold his emotions in at the thought of a beach. And then take the whole sentence as a whole. John is triggered again because he can't walk by the beach. The point I'm showing is that depending on the circumstances and the people, anything can be described as hate speech, so you cannot create laws or regulations because of that fact. If you did, and you cater to every different person's opinion of what they deem as an insult, everything will be banned. No word would be safe. Let's say you create regulations at your college or universities that only ban certain phrases such as on the other hand. Now you have created a hostile environment. First, you have set precedent that people can be punished for saying a sentence even after they have said it. Also, you have set a precedent to have certain people pandered to, so people are going to push you to pander to them. This means once you ban one sentence from people's use, you will have thousands of people coming towards you asking for certain other sentences to be banned because they are triggering. If you want an example of this, keep a close eye on what is happening to Valve at this moment in time. They're in a lawsuit based on the fact that a player of Counter-Strike lost skins gambling as a youth, and Valve had no protections to stop that happening. Go and read about it, it's interesting, but let's say they settle with this guy. This would open the floodgates to everyone who has ever gambled on a site with CSGO skins to sue them, so they could get a settlement. If the court case wins, then the same scenario will happen. Once there is precedent, people will jump on the bandwagon and use it to their advantage. This is all assuming that the Bias Incident Prevention and Response Team even has any power to do anything, and we will look into that next time.